Begin in the Middle East this morning with that developing story. A humanitarian pause in parts of Gaza is underway right now as we take a live look at the Israel-Gaza border. Israel announcing early this morning that it is pausing operations in 3 parts of the region for 10 hours each day. Israel also saying it would create new permanent routes for aid deliveries. The people of Gaza awaiting those deliveries, saying it's not enough, and calling for a full ceasefire and more substantial aid distribution. This all comes 2 days after American and Israeli officials walked away from ceasefire talks, saying Hamas appeared to not actually want a deal. Middle East correspondent Yotam Confino is joining us now near Tel Aviv this morning. Good morning from New York, Yotam. What are you seeing on the ground? What are you hearing?
Also, I'm hearing, first of all, that you mentioned this, that Israel is now succumbing to pressure from the international system and allowing aid to be more freely distributed inside Gaza in those areas that you mentioned, 3 different areas in the south, in the center, and in the north, where every day there will be a humanitarian pause, a tactical military pause from 10 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And in addition to that, there will be permanent safe routes for the NGOs to deliver aid. They'll be open from 6 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. So that's in addition to some of the other routes that are leading to the border crossings currently open between Israel and Gaza. And of course, Israel is also dropping aid from the air. I'm not sure how long they'll continue to do that, because they have actually, this is the first time since October the 7th that Israel has taken upon itself to drop humanitarian aid from the air. But nevertheless, all of these things have been welcomed by the United Nations, who have also said that they are greatly improving all of their efforts to distribute aid inside the Gaza Strip. And actually, the World Food Program said that they have enough humanitarian aid either in the region or on the way to the region to feed the entire population of Gaza for 3 months. So it does look like finally the United Nations and Israel are really trying to alleviate the situation together.
Yotam, I am curious why those 3 specific areas, and like you said, it's a dire situation in Gaza. Is this humanitarian aid enough? What are people on the ground around you saying about this aid finally being delivered?
So if we start with why those 3 areas, it's Al-Mawasi, which is already a humanitarian zone where you have hundreds of thousands of people gathered. So it's Israel trying to find some of those areas where a lot of people are already gathered and making sure that there will be no military actions whatsoever, despite Hamas potentially being there. So it's because they really want to find those 3 centers with as many people as possible gathered, where NGOs can simply go and distribute aid. And as for whether this is enough aid, I think it's a good question, because what is enough aid? If you listen to the World Food Program, well, they're saying that they need much more, but in fact they have so much on their way that they could feed Gaza for 3 months. And you have also the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the American-backed NGO, that's already distributing roughly between 2 and 3 million meals every single day inside Gaza. So it's not that there's not aid coming into Gaza. The whole issue is to distribute it in a safe and properly way so that it reaches the people who are most in need of it. And the difficulties and the challenges, of course, that some of these trucks that you see on the screen now, some of them are being looted the minute that they cross from the crossings in Gaza into the population centers. They're being looted by civilians, sometimes by gangs. So that is really the biggest challenge, I would say, to have this aid distributed.
I know there was a huge protest in Tel Aviv on Thursday for a ceasefire and, of course, asking for the rest of the hostages to be returned. Now, with the news of this aid going in and this tactical pause, what are you hearing in Israel from people?
So I think it's hard for Israelis to understand in which direction that this government is actually headed, because they continue to change their tune. They continue to make new decisions. They contradict what they've said earlier. Prime Minister Netanyahu, for example, has said that aid were never going to go into deep into Gaza unless some of the hostages came out. He also promised that the UN were never really going to have anything to do with distributing aid. It was only going to be the American-backed NGO. So they change their decisions and their tactics all the time, and it's something that's very confusing for Israelis. And again, at the end of the day, you have all of these relatives of hostages that week after week go to the streets and they try their best to appeal to the government. to make this deal with Hamas. But it's not that simple, because there is actually a deal on the table that Israel has agreed to, a 60-day ceasefire, which Hamas constantly either turns down, or they come with new demands and new suggestions as to what the ceasefire should look like. So it's not that easy, but the frustration in Israel is immense.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.